Hello, everyone. I hope you are having a calm moment today. Before we begin, take a slow breath. Let your shoulders relax and allow your mind to slow down for a moment. Today, we are going to talk about something many people feel, but very few people openly talk about: loneliness. Not the loud kind, not the loneliness that comes from being physically alone, but the quiet loneliness that exists even when people are around us. The strange feeling of being disconnected in a world that is more connected than ever before. Today, we live in the most connected time in human history. With a simple device in our hands, we can reach almost anyone in the world. We can send messages instantly. We can see photos of people who live thousands of miles away. We can join conversations happening across the planet. Technology has made communication faster than ever before. But something unexpected has happened. Even though we are more connected than ever, many people feel more alone than ever. It is a quiet feeling. Sometimes it appears in the evening. Sometimes it appears while scrolling through social media. Sometimes it appears in the middle of a crowded room. You may be surrounded by people, but inside you feel strangely distant. You laugh with others. You participate in conversations, but somewhere deep inside, something feels missing. And often people do not understand why. They ask themselves a quiet question: why do I feel lonely even when I am not alone? To understand this feeling, we need to look at something very simple: what humans truly need. For thousands of years, human beings survived by living together. We formed small communities. Families stayed close to one another. Neighbors depended on each other. Life was not always easy, but people rarely lived completely disconnected from others. Human survival depended on connection. Sharing food, sharing stories, sharing emotions. And because of this long history, our brains evolved to need something very important: human connection. Not just communication, but connection, real connection. The feeling that someone truly sees you, the feeling that someone understands you, the feeling that you matter to another person. These small emotional signals are incredibly important for the human mind. They create a sense of safety, a sense of belonging, a sense that we are not alone in the world. But modern life has slowly changed the way we experience relationships. Many interactions today happen through screens. We send messages, we leave comments, we press the like button. These actions create the appearance of connection, but they do not always create real emotional closeness. A message can travel across the world in a second, but emotional understanding often moves much slower. In many ways, modern communication has become wider, but not always deeper. We speak with more people, but sometimes we connect with fewer. Imagine this situation. You open a social media app. You see hundreds of photos, friends smiling, people traveling, families celebrating happy moments. Everyone seems busy. Everyone seems successful. Everyone seems surrounded by joy. And slowly, without noticing it, a quiet thought appears. Everyone else seems happy. Why do I feel different? This comparison happens almost automatically. Our brains naturally observe other people. We try to understand where we stand in the social world. But social media shows us a very selective version of life. People share their highlights, their best moments, their happiest memories. Very few people share their loneliness. Very few people show their doubts. Very few people reveal their quiet struggles. Because of this, the online world can create a powerful illusion. It looks like everyone else is living a perfect life. And when we see this illusion again and again, something begins to change inside our minds. We begin to feel separated from others, even though we are watching their lives every day. This is one of the strange paradoxes of modern life. We see more people than ever before, but sometimes we understand them less, and sometimes they understand us less as well. True connection requires something deeper. It requires time. It requires attention. It requires vulnerability. It requires the courage to be honest about how we truly feel. But modern life often moves very quickly. People are busy. Schedules are full. Conversations become shorter. Messages replace long discussions. And slowly, relationships can become more efficient, but less meaningful. This does not mean modern life is entirely negative. Technology has given us many wonderful tools. It allows families to stay in contact across long distances. It allows people to find communities they might never meet otherwise. But even with these advantages, one simple truth remains. The human heart still desires the same thing it has always desired: to be seen, to be understood, to be valued. And when these needs are not fully met, a quiet emotion begins to appear. Loneliness, not always dramatic, not always painful, but present. A soft feeling of distance between ourselves and the world around us. And often, this loneliness remains invisible because people rarely talk about it. They continue working. They continue posting online. They continue participating in daily life. But somewhere inside, they feel a quiet gap, a space where deeper connection should exist. And the more modern life accelerates, the easier it becomes for this gap to grow. But to truly understand this quiet loneliness, we must explore something deeper. Not just how we communicate, but how we relate to one another in the modern world. And this is where the story becomes even more interesting. Because loneliness is not only about being alone. Sometimes it is about something far more subtle. Something that exists quietly inside many modern lives. A feeling that we are seen, but not truly known. And this quiet difference can change the way we experience the world, in ways we are only beginning to understand. To understand modern loneliness, we need to look deeper into our daily lives. Not only how we communicate, but how we truly experience relationships. In the past, human relationships were often built slowly. People spent long hours together. Families ate meals together. Neighbors talked in the evenings. Friends met face to face. These simple moments created something very powerful. Shared experience. When people share time together, they begin to understand one another naturally. They notice small emotions. They hear tone in each other's voices. They see expressions on each other's faces. These small signals help the brain feel connected. But many of these signals disappear in digital communication. A text message does not show facial expressions. A short reply cannot always carry deep emotion. Even video calls cannot fully replace physical presence. Because connection is not only about words, it is also about presence. The feeling that someone is truly there with you. In modern life, this sense of presence has slowly become weaker. People are often physically together, but mentally somewhere else. Friends sit together at a table, but several phones are placed between them. Conversations pause as notifications appear. Attention shifts from the real moment to the digital world. At first, this change seems small. Just a quick glance at a message. Just a short check of social media. But over time, These small interruptions begin to shape the way we relate to one another. Moments of deep conversation become shorter. Moments of silence feel uncomfortable. People feel pressure to check their phones, to stay updated, to stay connected. Ironically, the more we try to stay connected online, the less present we sometimes become with the people around us. And slowly, something important begins to fade. Emotional depth. Deep conversations require patience. They require listening. They require attention. But when attention is constantly divided, conversations remain on the surface. People talk about daily events, work, news, entertainment, but deeper feelings often remain unspoken. And when people feel that their deeper thoughts are not fully shared, loneliness can begin to grow quietly inside them. Another reason modern loneliness has increased is the way modern life organizes time. Many people live in large cities. They move for education. They move for work. They move for opportunities. These changes create exciting possibilities, but they can also separate people from long-term communities. In the past, many people lived near the same neighbors for decades. Relationships grew slowly over time. Trust developed naturally. But today, people often move more frequently. Friendships can become temporary. Communities can change quickly. And building deep relationships requires time. When time becomes limited, connection can become fragile. There's also another quiet factor: the fear of vulnerability. In a world where people constantly present their best image online, many people feel pressure to appear strong, to appear successful, to appear happy. Showing weakness can feel uncomfortable. Sharing sadness can feel risky. So many people keep their struggles private. They hide their doubts. They hide their fears. They hide their loneliness. But something interesting happens when everyone hides their struggles. Everyone begins to believe they are the only ones struggling. Everyone believes others are doing better. Everyone believes they must face their feelings alone. And this belief can deepen the sense of isolation. But the truth is very different. Many people feel the same quiet loneliness. Many people wonder if others truly understand them. Many people wish for deeper connection. But because no one speaks openly about it, the loneliness remains invisible. It becomes part of the silent background of modern life. Another important aspect of loneliness is something psychologists often describe as emotional mismatch. This happens when a person is surrounded by people, but does not feel emotionally understood. You may talk with friends. You may laugh at jokes. You may attend gatherings. But if your deeper feelings are not shared, something inside remains distant. It is possible to be socially active and still feel lonely, because loneliness is not measured by the number of people around us. It is measured by the depth of connection we feel. One meaningful conversation can reduce loneliness more than 100 casual interactions. One person who truly listens can change how we experience the world. And yet, in the fast rhythm of modern life, meaningful listening has become rare. Many conversations compete with distractions. People multitask. They respond quickly. But true listening requires something different. It requires slowing down. It requires curiosity. It requires patience. And perhaps most importantly, it requires presence. The simple act of giving someone your full attention can be deeply powerful, because in that moment, the other person feels something very important. They feel seen. They feel heard. They feel that their existence matters. These small emotional signals are the foundation of human connection. Without them, relationships can begin to feel distant. But when they appear, even briefly, loneliness can begin to soften. And this brings us to an important realization. Modern loneliness is not only about the absence of people, it is often about the absence of deep understanding. A world full of voices can still feel quiet if no one truly listens. A world full of connections can still feel empty if those connections remain shallow. And understanding this difference is the first step toward changing how we experience relationships in modern life. Because once we begin to see the quiet patterns that create loneliness, we also begin to see the possibility of creating something different, something deeper, something more human. And this is where the story begins to shift. From understanding loneliness to rediscovering connection. But there is an important truth about loneliness. Loneliness is not a permanent condition. It is not a personal failure, and it is not something to feel ashamed of. Loneliness is often a signal, a quiet message from the mind. It tells us something important. It tells us that we need connection. Just as hunger tells us that the body needs food, loneliness tells us that the heart needs human connection. This feeling exists in every human culture, across every country, across every generation, because humans were never meant to live completely alone. Our brains were built for connection, for conversation, for shared experience, and even though the modern world has changed many things, this basic need has never changed. But understanding loneliness helps us see something hopeful. It means connection can also be rebuilt, often in very small ways, not always through dramatic life changes, but through simple moments of presence. One meaningful conversation, one honest message, one quiet moment of listening. These small actions can slowly change how we experience relationships. Sometimes connection begins when someone decides to speak honestly, to say something real, not only the positive things, but also the difficult emotions. When people share their real experiences, something interesting happens. Others begin to feel safe doing the same. Walls begin to lower. Conversations become deeper. Understanding grows naturally. Because vulnerability creates connection. When someone shares something genuine, it reminds us that we are not alone in our experiences. Another powerful step toward reducing loneliness is learning to be present with others. This may sound simple, but in the modern world, true presence has become rare. Being present means giving someone your full attention, not checking messages, not thinking about the next task, not dividing your focus between many different things, just listening, just being there. For many people, this small act can feel surprisingly powerful because it sends a quiet message. You matter. Your thoughts matter. Your feelings matter. And when people feel this message, even briefly, loneliness begins to soften. But there is another kind of connection that is often overlooked. Connection with ourselves. Many people try to escape loneliness by filling every moment with activity, work, entertainment, social media, constant stimulation. But sometimes loneliness becomes stronger when we run away from quiet moments. Because in silence, we begin to notice our deeper emotions. And this can feel uncomfortable at first. But learning to sit with our own thoughts can be surprisingly meaningful. When we become comfortable with our own presence, relationships with others often become healthier. We no longer search desperately for validation. Instead, we approach others with curiosity and openness. Connection becomes something we share, not something we desperately chase. This shift can change the way we experience the world. We begin to notice small human moments, a conversation with a stranger, a kind smile, a thoughtful message. These simple interactions remind us that connection still exists everywhere around us. It may not always appear in dramatic ways, but it appears quietly, in everyday life, and when we become more aware of these moments, loneliness begins to feel less overwhelming. Because we begin to understand something important. Connection is not only about the number of people in our lives. It is about the quality of attention we share with them. One genuine conversation can stay in the mind for days. One moment of kindness can change someone's entire mood. These small moments create emotional bridges between people, and slowly those bridges grow stronger. Modern life may be busy. Modern life may be fast, but human connection still grows in simple ways. Through listening, through understanding, through presence. And perhaps this is the quiet lesson hidden inside modern loneliness. Loneliness reminds us of what truly matters. Not endless information, not constant stimulation, but meaningful human connection. The simple feeling of being seen. The simple feeling of being understood. The simple feeling of not facing the world completely alone. When we begin to value these moments again, something begins to change. Conversations become deeper. Relationships become more meaningful. Life becomes less rushed, less distant, more human, and slowly, the quiet loneliness of modern life begins to transform. Not into perfect happiness, but into something more balanced, more compassionate, more connected. Because in the end, the opposite of loneliness is not simply being surrounded by people. It is the experience of true understanding. And that experience begins with small acts of attention, small acts of honesty, small acts of kindness. These actions may seem simple, but they have the power to reshape how we experience our lives. And perhaps the most comforting truth is this. Many people around the world are searching for the same thing: understanding, connection, a place where they feel truly seen. And sometimes, the first step toward that connection begins with a single conversation. A single moment of presence, a single decision to truly listen. Thank you for sharing this quiet moment together. And as always, see you in the next story.